start by introducing Becca, and then we're going to hear mostly from Becca describing the work of Thistle Farms and what's really important to you right now. The Reverend Becca Stevens has spent her life exploring that sacred tension point between where the temporal and the eternal meet, and found that meeting to be what we think of as love. Yet she hasn't simply touched on that in sermons or theological inquiry. She's found evidence of that love in some of the most challenging and tender places in the world, especially where women have emerged from lives of exploitation, addiction, and trafficking, as well as extreme poverty. Miraculously, she has found this love where the grace of the eternal meets the flesh and bone of reality. She has found that meeting place to be an infinite source of healing and renewal. Becca is an author, a speaker, an Episcopal priest, a social entrepreneur, founder and president of Thistle Farms in Nashville, Tennessee. She founded Magdalene in 1997, now called Thistle Farms, to raise up and employ female survivors of human trafficking, prostitution, and addiction. Thistle Farms employs graduates and survivors to make home and body products sold in food stores like Whole Foods and ThistleFarms.org, but more importantly, right there in a piazza near you. I hope you brought your credit card and your shopping list today here with you. Through her leadership, this has turned into a global movement of justice and change. She's received many local awards, as well as being designated a White House Champion of Change in 2011. In 2016, Becca was named a CNN Top Hero of the Year for her work with Thistle Farms in Magdalene. She has written 9 books, including a 2013 memoir, Snake Oil, The Art of Healing and Truth-Telling, and her most recent book, Practically Divine. And for those of you who joined us for the forum on Wednesday, I did my very best to prove to Becca that I had read her book. And I did, and it was a great book. But I think today we would much rather hear from you, Becca, about the mission of Thistle Farms, where you are today as it's developing, and why this leadership based on love is so important to you.
We wouldn't be here today without Kristen. Kristen organizes all the events, planned all of this to be here. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself and what she hopes you buy today in a little while. And we also wouldn't be here without our CFO of Thistle Farms, Scott, who has joined us because Scott is related to Amy, who married Pete, who's Scott's dad and mom brought all these people together here. So that means we got to eat kielbasa last night, I think. So that is just, huh? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. And you want me to go through the whole thing? Okay. It was beautiful. It was good, wasn't it? It was very good, wasn't it?
It was fantastic.
So good, so good. So I just want to bring up like 3 different things I thought might be interesting for us to talk about in this idea of leading with love. And they are basically the idea of changing, the idea of justice, and the idea of lavishness. Those are the 3 things I just briefly touch on because I do want to have time for us to have conversation. So as you beautifully, beautifully described, Thistle Farms is a global movement for women's freedom. That's unbelievable to me, but that's what happens with little groups of women getting together all over the world. I mean, you gather 5 or 6 women together, help start a justice enterprise, and pretty soon they're trying to heal the whole community. I mean, all the data shows when we invest in women, we heal communities. And when we rape women, we kill communities. And so we want to be about bringing women together as they have come together for thousands of years. Oh my gosh, was that just focused in on this area? Look. Thousands of years. So that they can, like, why did women go down to the river together? It's safe. And because we tell stories while we're washing clothes, which has basically been boring. Or when we are having a sewing bee, it's like this first line of trauma-informed care. That's what I think of it as. Like you go into a refugee camp and 7 or 8 women are sitting there telling hard stories that they probably wouldn't ever go to a therapist to tell, and they begin that journey. And the thing is it's the same in every language. The stories of violence are the same in 20 different languages with different details. That's what the way you described it the other day. But also the stories of what women rant about is the same in every language that I'm learning too. It's like one woman will be from wherever and she sits at the table and she starts, "My husband." And everybody goes, "My children." You don't even have to go, that's all you have to say. And I'm like, that is beautiful, right? And then we move on, and then we tell jokes, and then we begin to think about what healing looks like. It was about 2 hours into our work at a refugee camp in Greece, all women from Syria beginning to strip life vests that they had crossed with. And they're turning them into these beautiful, loving welcome mats. And it was about 2 hours into the entire operation where everybody had said, "Don't go, there'll be a riot, there'll be all these problems. You can't just hire 9 women when there's 2,000 in this camp to start this project." 2 hours in, they were like, "Let me tell you what we need in this camp is buses. So if we can make this many mats and do this, and you figure out that, you bring the cookies, then we can do this work." Everything I learned about running a multi-million-dollar justice enterprise, I learned at the feet of my mother at the Episcopal Church Women's Group planning a bazaar. That is the truth. It's like you think, "Oh my gosh, this makes no sense. Why?" Okay, if we're going to have a bazaar, all of us will agree to have a bazaar. We'll all take $100. We'll go to Michael's and spend the $100 on stuff, and then we'll spend about 50 hours making something, and then we'll come into this church, and then we'll buy each other stuff for $100. And it's like, wouldn't it be easier just to go to Scott and say, "Scott, we're looking for $2,000 for our youth camp"? And the answer is no, it doesn't. That's not what it is. You've missed the entire exercise if you think that's what it is. What it is a community coming together. What it is a community recognizing, "Oh my God, did you make that wreath? That is stunning. Did you make that pierogi? Did you make those socks?" And you start feeling worthy and beautiful, and people recognize your gifts. And then we say, the next year, let's invite another 100 people to come in on this. And it begins to grow, and there's healing along the way. It's never been about just an exchange of money. Dorothy Day, who started the whole Catholic Workers Movement, talks about the extravagance of charity when everyone is blessed in it. That's what we're talking about in this process. It's the journey, too. It is the truth that the most desolate places are filled with the most vulnerable people. But when vulnerable people come together and take their rightful place as the makers and the healers, and we recognize that, that's when some beautiful justice happens, and we begin to see healing in all of communities. So the first part of this is the idea of what is a justice enterprise. It's not a social enterprise. It's not just that we have a business and then we do church on the side. The mission is what compels us to do business. The mission compels us to engage in the marketplace and into commerce. The mission compels us to be concerned about everybody's economic well-being. So what happens in a justice enterprise where the workforce is the mission, like Thistle Farms, like that Lutheran place we went with, Marion, where were we? Like that, we understand that we are paying a much higher cost in training, in labor. We are willing to take a smaller margin so that it's not the business that's scalable and sustainable, it's the community. And all of us understand our shared responsibility in that. So Thistle Farms is a justice enterprise. The enterprises that I described earlier are justice enterprise, rooted in justice, willing to bear the costs of that, willing to go into the marketplace and say, "Tell me again why it is that the producer is the least valued person in the marketplace." Let's explore that. Let's explore that in love, and let's explore that. What does that look like for mercy and justice? Let's read the gospel through those lenses and see where it leads us. The second thing is all of us get to participate in this kind of loving justice. You know, it's not just, it can't be a committee. It doesn't work that way. I know, the committee is the place where the spirit goes to die, isn't it? I know what that laugh is. I've seen that laugh. I've done it before myself where I think I have a good idea and I bring it to a church committee, and 6 months later I can't remember what the idea is. Do you know what I mean? Have you had that experience?
No idea. Never seen it happen.
It's a painful thing. You go like, oh my gosh, just vote. But it's all of us doing it, and all of us get to choose how we participate in the community in this work of justice. But we do participate. It's like communion. We participate. Even if you're going up there to cross your arms, we participate. This is a communal act that we do together. And we don't have to do the same thing all the time. Again, I want to point to Dorothy Day, who was the creator of the Catholic Worker Movement, one of the larger, more successful movements of love in the U.S., and she entitled her whole autobiography, The Long Loneliness Which Sticks With Me, that it's a hard journey to do this together even. We're alone even when we do it together, and we have to figure out how do we engage that. I mean, I'm married to an artist. We have 3 sons who are artists. If you're not lonely and depressed, you're not doing good art. And I said one time, I suggested my husband, I know y'all's family is perfectly engaged in a beautiful way in mental health. I asked my husband if he wanted to go to counseling, and he said, my blues work for me. So sad and beautiful. But this idea of like, how do we be ourselves? How do we do this community and loneliness? And again, Howard Thurman talks about the loneliness in another key, the loneliness of a truth seeker seeking in this world, willing to go out any boundaries to find that. That's not like easy to do. So how do we change and how do we engage? And I think my only explanation of how I've come to understand that was I was cleaning out closets, and I cleaned out this old drawer, and my husband and I just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary, and I found a letter where we were both in divinity school at Vanderbilt. And I had written him a letter. We'd been dating 6 months. And the letter starts out, Dear Marcus, we've been through so much. And I was like, I just can't imagine what we had been through. But this love letter that you're writing and I'm writing with our lives, it changes and it deepens. And it gets more joyful and sadder. It gets... it's beautiful to do this work. And it is a love letter, and you get to write another chapter in it about what it looks like for you to engage in this work of love and justice as a community, but also as an individual engaging this community. And the last thing I just want to say, and then let's talk, is that for me, the thing that I think the church has gotten a lot of stuff wrong. And I only say that because I haven't done well in the church. I've stayed a chaplain for 32 years in ministry, if that gives you a hint of how well it's gone for me in the church. Is that the lowest you can be in the church as a chaplain?
I don't think so.
I hope so, because I'm counting on that last and first thing.
I think it's
I feel
Bishop,
bad
actually.
for you.
Yeah.
No, but the whole thing of really, like, we think if we're going to build a cathedral, we can spend $20 million or whatever the number is. But if we're contemplating a shelter or a place of justice, we have to do it on the cheap. Early on in my ministry, I remember the decision I made. It was very clear to me that I had gone to pick up a couch, and it was urine-soaked. And I realized we couldn't use it in the shelter I was doing from this donation this man had given us. But I went ahead. I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I picked up the sofa, took it to the dump for him, and then wrote him a thank you note for the donation. And I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing it like this. This is not what it's supposed to look like. That really the radical way of loving and justice is if we built shelters like cathedrals as beacons of hope. And I hope that we do spend some time over the next year or whatever in contemplation about that amazing building back there and seeing what kind of cathedral is built from that is a beacon for this city. And I think it's good for the city, but I also think it's good for this community. And I love that you guys showed it to me this morning, and Scott, and we're going to keep dreaming and thinking about what that looks like. But that really you can be lavish and economical, and I don't ever want us to forget that. The reason this church has been here for 100 years is because, you didn't build a crappy church. Right? It's stunning. It's beautiful. You go down the city, it's like, oh my gosh. First time we built a shelter like a cathedral in Nashville was in 2005. We built $1 million house for 8 women. And that's with the land donated, the architectural design donated, the engineering donated. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's more beautiful than anybody probably at Thistle Farms lives in, with Bosch appliances, bamboo flooring, vaulted ceilings, interior garden. And when you do the math on it, we can house 8 women in that lavish space for half the cost it costs to keep them in prison. We are willing to spend millions per woman for prison. We just had a woman who came to us this year, Scott, remember, she was in there 34 years. $60,000 a year. Where's our math major? $60,000 a year for 34 years. Go. Oh no, it's $60,000 a year for 34 years. 1.9 million. 1.9 million. And she comes out with nothing, and she is not safe, and the community is not safe. If you come into these communities of Thistle Farms or other communities that are long-term free beds for women that also provide meaningful and deep work, you're talking about saving not only millions of dollars per woman over a lifetime, you're talking about the actual idea that people are contributing, that they're raising their children, they're paying their taxes, they're buying their homes, they're doing all that. So to think about this idea of we have been sold wrong, the idea that you can't be lavish in justice. The reason that you're going to love these products when you buy them and recommend them, and we're going to keep growing, is that all those products are a sign of the lavish nature of love. All right, thank you. Did I talk too long?
Not at all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen. It is great to be back. We were here a few days ago and then went to Chicago and couldn't wait to get back to spend time with all of you. I'm a 2015 graduate of the 2-year residential program of Thistle Farms. I entered in the program in 2013 after spending 17 years on the streets, in and out of jail, institutions, and abusive relationships, and just experiencing all the trauma that addiction and trafficking gives you. And I grew up with a mom that was an alcoholic, so my trauma started really young, and I found that drugs and alcohol numbed all that, and it just escalated over the years. And when I came in 2013, I was surrounded by a community that welcomed me with open arms and loved me. It was much different from any other program that I had been through. I was coming in and wasn't asked to pay anything. The halfway houses and other programs I had been to wanted me to pay $125 a week. Well, it's like, I know I'm going to hustle to get that money to you. And it wasn't very conducive to anybody's recovery. So I came in and was loved on, and I had a relapse in the program. And I was really prepared for everybody on staff to kick me out and tell me what a failure I was and how I wasn't ever going to get it right, because I'd been told that so many times before. And they surrounded me and they just said, "What can we do to help you?" And that was a life-changing moment for me. And I had never had anybody really ask me what they could do to help me. I had people telling me what I needed to do because it was what they thought I needed to do. And I was able to say, how about we get more therapy? How about we fix my mental health medication? And I was able to learn to love myself by a community loving me until I could love myself. And I was able to get custody of my 2 children. I was able to have another child. I got married. I own a home. I drive a minivan. And
This is supposed to be happy.
It is happy. It is so happy. I have a 16 have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an 8-year-old, all daughters, and they're in soccer and cheerleading, and it hasn't been always the easiest. My youngest daughter has ADHD, and so I was able to be her mother from the time she was born to now. My other children, I lost custody of them, and so I was able to actually raise her and know what it was like to be a mother, and I got to be a good mother. I got a do-over, and my kids are great. They're not doing any of the things I was doing when I was their age, and so most days I'm grateful that things are good today, and I have a really fantastic boss. I've worked with Becca for many years, and just being around her, I know that she has contributed to just so much of my healing journey, and I'm grateful to travel with her all over and get to speak with people and, just share this love movement for women's freedom. And one of my favorite products, I'm so glad y'all asked, is the bath soak. One of the things that I like to do a lot that I don't get a lot of time to do is take baths. And we use beautiful essential oils, and we use sea salts, and the soaks. We have many different scents out there, and it's just an opportunity to relax and recharge and rest, and pairing that with a candle, you get a really nice spa treat. And we're really excited for you to do all of your shopping out there. Christmas is coming. We're happy to answer any questions that you have about any of our products.
So I have one question before we open it up. And we've spent a lot of time together in the last few days. I spent time with Practically Divine. So much of it is about healing and about healing trauma. And trauma is something that can consume us. And yet your movement is very much about turning that completely around. And the phrase that came to mind was something I read in John O'Donohue's Anam Cara. I think he was quoting somebody else, but he said, "The wounds of the spirit heal and leave no scars." Now I'm still sitting with that because when we have trauma, we have scars. But I hear in all of this conversation about lavishness and love, a different thing that we can do when we go through the very worst that life can throw at us. And so I want to kind of get your reflection about that idea of the wounds of the spirit. How can we help them? How can we invite God in to help them to heal in a way that, I don't know if they ever go without scars or not, but they no longer consume us?
I have a lot of thoughts. One of them, I have a lot of thoughts, and Kristen, I would love to hear what you think about that. But one is like, who cares if they're scars? Scars are amazing and beautiful. And I think the problem is you can't see the scars, so people think they're not there. One of the things I noticed when I went to the Equal Justice Initiative, the Legacy Museum, the Lynching Museum in Montgomery, was these amazing images of scars, of the scars of our country, what we've done, the lynchings, the racism, the hatred. But I was like, guess what you can't see is all the internal scars, especially borne by women, that the generational rapes and the beatings that women have taken. And that's when I got back and we started talking about creating this remnant quilt, kind of a memorial to those scars. What I think is powerful, and again, if you think about like a tree and the scars in the tree, that's called the burl. That's the most valuable wood. That's the strongest wood. It's like there's a lot of examples in nature in that, but when I think about creating this monument to the scars that have been transformed into compassion, that's what's so powerful, I think, at Thistle Farms is like my first sexual assault while I was 6 years old. Like my childhood is gone at that point. My dad had been killed the year before, and that's what happens when somebody, a lot of times you have one vulnerability and then people take advantage of that. It's like, that's gone. I'm not going to get over it, or I'm not going to get my 6-year-old self back. But it can transform into some kind of powerful compassion for people. And longing, like I was talking about before, longing and compassion are big words for me. And so I hope that the scars that you see, you know, are accepted, but the scars that you can't see, you know, are also respected. And that we know that it's like it makes this, sometimes it seems so strong that it's impermeable. How do you say you can't get past it? Whatever. And what I hope is that it becomes not that strong. Like I'm trying to soften up my scars, not keep them so hard.
And I think that anywhere that there is love, you know, the scars for me, I can speak personally, you know, they'll always be there. Like I still experience a lot of, you know, PTSD, but, you know, as long as I have my loving community and for me, taking care of my mental health and, you know, what do those things look like for me? It's my taking care of my mental health, making sure I have a sponsor, making sure I have a therapist, making sure I have a loving community, and just knowing all those things that are part of my healing process. And I have a community that offers all of those things to me. It makes it easy. And when I'm healing, it's able for me to find my spirituality, and I'm able to have that connection with God.
And thank you both for sharing your stories in front of a bunch of complete strangers. So we're nice people, but we appreciate your kindness in sharing that. I want to offer a chance for folks to ask questions if you have them. Yeah. Yes.
I just came, I'm going through a situation, and it's so amazing how God sent me here today, because the front door was open. But I would love to learn about this Thistle Farms when it's all over. I want some information on that, because
We got you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jane. Yeah. And I will I'm going to hand a microphone so we can hear you.
Yeah, I am a mental health professional, and I do work with trauma victims, and I've worked with people in homeless shelters. Part of the problem has also often been that a lot of shelters didn't allow people in who were using drugs. And most people I know who have been trafficked, who've been in prison, that's been their coping mechanism. And so I'm wondering, do you accept people into your program who are actively using?
So if someone calls and they need somewhere to go immediately, we have a safe house where they can come. And then if they are actively using, then we find them a 30-day treatment center to get to. I mean, at the 2-year residential program, we don't have like a detox or anything like that, but we have so many community partners that we work with to make sure that whatever phase that you're in, whether it's actively using, 30 days clean or whatever, we get them the help that they need, and then they're able to come into the program.
The other thing is, we're not a shelter. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you come, you're committing for 2 years, and if you're in active addiction, it's super hard to commit to 2 years. So it's not fair for the person or for the community for people to come in and out, which is why we have a safe house, which operates that way more. But we're not a halfway house either, so you don't come in and just pay the money and then you can stay. This is really a community, a home. So when people come in there, they commit to the discipline, in other words, the community discipline of what it means to be safe for one another, with one another. There's no authority that lives inside the house with the community. It's the women who are residents in any of the houses develop the rituals, they develop the rules, they develop all of that and follow those together and watch out for each other.
Jenna, I'm going to hand you the mic so we can hear you in the recording.
I can speak loud. So how do people get into your house? Are they referred? Are they, coming from a court diversion, prison diversion? How do they get in?
Well, I mean, we have more than 400 women on the waiting list, but we're in Nashville. But that's not that's not bad news necessarily, because that's the reason we have put so much time and effort and resources into starting a national network. That's why there's 72 houses open, another 18 in process, so that we can continue to be able to refer to in cities and places that have open beds. So we have a referral process in place just for that reason. But women are referred, if you do anything in the national, like on national news and of any kind, you'll get referrals from all over. But we have a Magdalene on the inside, meaning women who are already ready to come in who are going to be in prison for another couple of years. We have women that come from referrals from other treatment centers, and women who walk in right off the street and decide, I'm ready to put down the drugs and the using. I'm ready to give all of it up, surrender, and commit. Oh, this is going to be hard.
Amy doesn't need a mic.
Yeah, I don't need a mic. One of the things I think is so amazing about Thistle Farms is the social enterprise piece and how social justice piece.
Justice Enterprise.
Justice enterprise.
It's okay, it's new language.
All right, thank you. Could you talk a little bit more about how the women who benefit from the program or in the program are a part of the business itself?
So when you come into the 2-year residential program, they have different steps on the programming piece. But first we have this new program which is fabulous. It's called Job Readiness. And what happens is those women take a job readiness course. It's a cohort, and it's several weeks long. They learn about email. They learn about office etiquette. They learn all the things. And then they get transferred over to the home and body manufacturing facility. And there they're able to work with other graduates, other residents, and they start out there. And then there's different departments within Thistle Farms. And after they've done some time working in the manufacturing and just really getting the hang of working, because some of these women have never worked before, or they haven't worked in so many years, so it's just really getting them the hang of it, and they're able to make a paycheck, and they're able to, support, send money to their kids or pay on restitutions, and they're able to contribute back into society, and they're able to make legitimate money. I know for me that was a huge thing, is I was making, legal money, and that was amazing. And then they can go to different departments within Thistle Farms to, we have applications, like they'll post, hey, these are all the openings, and then they go through the application process just like anybody else. So it really gives them, a sense of what, the workforce really is. And sometimes they go on and they do other jobs. They go work with the state, or they go work with other treatment facilities or whatever, but everybody gets to start at Thistle Farms, and there's graduates and residents that have been there since, I don't know, I think one of them's like a 2000-something graduate, which is phenomenal, because that was one of the big things for me. Is when I got there, the residential manager was one of the very first 5 women who came in 1997, and I had never seen anybody with that kind of clean time before. And at Thistle Farms, you get to see graduates from over the years, and it's like this living proof that this recovery is possible and life is possible, and it's very impactful.
I just want to say, too, that this is not a program that was done for graduates and residents. It was people who were residents and graduates that grew that company. Let me be super clear on that. So the national director of sales, Katrina, grew this company. Ty, who was one of the first candle makers, that's the director of manufacturing, grew this company. Sheila, who's the residential and national network coordinator, grew the company. Kristen, one of the graduates of Thistle Farms, helps grow this national movement. It is done alongside and with women who have come through the program and graduated. And I think it's super important that you know that our workforce is 50% resident and graduates of the program, including management and leadership. Because that's what I want to do. I don't want to do it alongside somebody. I know we only have a minute left, but Scott, I'd feel sick if you didn't give us a last word.
Well, before we get the last word from Scott, I want to hear. May I borrow this?
I just want to see how far you would go.
I want to hear from Kirsty Mounsey, who is the executive director of the Collaborative to End Human Trafficking here in Northeast Ohio. So I can come to you, or you can come down and greet us. You come on down. Come on down, Kirsty. We got a seat for you, right? Please do, and then we'll turn it over to Scott.
I really appreciate it, and I just want to say a couple of words. Good morning. I'm Kirsty Muncy. Good morning. I am the president and CEO of the Collaborative to End Human Trafficking, and I just wanted to, again, thank you for a quick moment to say that, wow, that was really powerful, because that's what we believe in Cleveland and in Cuyahoga County too, that anti-human trafficking efforts are community efforts. No organization or person can do this work alone, which is why we are a collaborative, why we work together. We work with 75 organizations around Cuyahoga County who have joined together in collective efforts to combat human trafficking. The Collaborative to End Human Trafficking leads, empowers, and connects these efforts. Human trafficking lives in the shadows of our society and our community. And if you're willing to join, if you're interested, there are education materials. But I did want to say these efforts are underway. We are a community. We've come together. And we are a movement as well. I like all of that because we do need to support people who have vulnerabilities and who are living in the shadows to be free from human trafficking. So thank you so much for the quick opportunity to introduce myself.
Thank you, Kirsty. And on your way to get product, you can talk with Kirsty and learn about the collaborative.
Okay, I'll just be quick. I have two questions. I want to know whether you provide professional therapeutic help for the women who come. And secondly, I'm kind of a policy nerd. Do you advocate for public policy to better things for...
I can tell you all about both of those when we're out there.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to not be late for church.
Okay,
But
thank
yes,
you.
The answer is yes on both. We do advocacy, lobbying-ish, and we do mental health and have professional nurse practitioners and people providing.
I just read an article about that
We can do that.
law that was passed in 2018 about trafficking.
Yes, I can talk to you about that.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I
Do
was
you want to
not
come up?
expecting this.
Yeah, you come up. Take the hot seat.
Don't forget to name your favorite.
So I've been with Thistle Farms for about a year now. Before that, I was a space shuttle commander. That didn't go very well. No. I'll work on that one. Okay. Okay. Aim a little lower next time. Yeah, air. Okay. So I've been blessed to be part of the community for a year now, and I can't tell you how wonderful it is to be part of an organization where it isn't about earning the almighty dollar. It's really about the community, and it's inspiring to see what these women can do when they work together and you love on one another. And to be part of that community, it's really been a blessing for me and my family, and I love to be able to contribute to that in any way that I can. And it's really about supporting the women that come to the program. I have a graduate that works in my department, and my goal, if she's inspired to do that, is for her to be the CFO. And so essentially to work myself out of a job, and I'd love to see her take on that opportunity. Now, my wife's not here to hear that, but so we'll keep that from her if you won't mind. But
You're being
truly,
recorded.
yeah,
You're being recorded. Just let you know.
truly a wonderful experience, and I appreciate you guys. My favorite product? It's the bug spray. So in Tennessee, the Tennessee bird is a mosquito, and I'm from California. So coming here, we need bug sprays, and so the bug spray was my favorite product. My wife loves the bath bombs, the bath bombs, and my daughter loves the lotions, so,
Thank you.
and candles. So thank you very much.
So that was a Good last word. So I'll give you the last word. So I love working with Kristen and Scott, but what I really love is being on the road and traveling and getting to meet folks. And we were in Ukraine when the war broke out there, and you know the link between refugees and human trafficking is inextricably linked. And women gathered and they started knitting. It's called Love Rises. It's the project of women knitters who are all refugees from eastern Ukraine and Russian-occupied parts of Ukraine. That was my first time to really eat pierogies, was on the border of Ukraine and Poland. It was amazing. We just had, a couple weeks ago, one of the women that leads the knitting effort, Marina, come to Tennessee, and she came and brought socks and a message of hope. So the idea of Love Rise is stand on your feet. So we have a bunch of socks that Marina brought. They're $50, and what we would like is we have about 12 pairs of socks, right? We have probably a little more than that. Maybe 12 to 15 pairs of socks. They're perfect Christmas presents, but we also want photos to share on social media. And with Marina, if you're willing to buy a pair of the hand-knitted Ukrainian socks, they're stunning. Even if you just slip them on your feet, take a photo, or just take a photo, let us take photos, because we're trying to do a collage of socks. It will be a big deal for us. That was it. Thank you, BJ. Thank you.